Are you like me and have the bookcase of shame when it comes to projects that you have started and then never actually finished? Well, I'm glad you're here because today's video, I'm going to be going through my 10 tips to finish your projects, where I am going to give you my best and most useful sewing tips that I use personally to complete the garments that you have seen on this channel. And today's video is sponsored by Pear Eyewear, but more on them in a little bit. Number 1, pick something you actually want to make, not just an easy project. Yes, friends, because I hate to tell you, just because sewing a pillowcase, tablecloth, table runner, window valance is an easy project doesn't necessarily mean that you will be encouraged to get it done very early on in your sewing game. For me personally, I needed projects that challenged me from the start. Now, was my challenge a gathered skirt, which objectionably, now looking at it, is pretty friggin' easy for me to do now as 2024 Stephanie? Yes. However, when I got started again, it was not simple. It was actually quite challenging. So I had to take on something that I desperately wanted to be able to finish the project. Number 2, you will make mistakes, and that is okay. I don't know if you've been on this channel for more than about 30 seconds when you realize that almost every project I have made a mistake. Sir, but the kicker is to not let it stop you. When you make the mistake, take the moment, feel your feelings, get anger, get whatever you need to be, and then don't let that stop you from moving forward, because the forward motion is what's going to keep you driven in this project. So be annoyed at your seam ripper, be annoyed that you cut it wrong and you're gonna have to use interfacing to fix the hole in the pleat. Not saying I've done that one before. So don't be afraid to make a mistake or two, but just keep going because I know you can do it. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and talk about the sponsor of today's video, Pear Eyewear. That's right, Pear Eyewear is back on the channel, and this time with some Beetlejuice toppers. But seriously, I do love my Pear Eyewear, and they are my only pair of glasses. Why are they my only pair of glasses? 1, because I like to live close to the edge, and 2, whenever I want to change out my glasses, I absolutely don't need to remember which pair to put on my face because I have one and a whole bunch of fun toppers to go along with it. So this time around for my Harper pair of frames, I opted to go with Beetlejuice After Dark, the Mickey Bokeh, and the Beetlejuice Graveyard. Because listen, at the end of the day, I am a basic human being. I want one thing to go onto my face every single day, but I still like the option to have different styles and fun things without having to pay the exorbitant rate for that many pairs of glasses. So these are great for that. I have one set, they have my one prescription, and all I have to do is pick out which topper I want to wear that day. So if you want to go ahead and upgrade your glasses experience, make sure that you are clicking the link down below in my description using my code StephanieCanada15 to save 15% off your first pair. And thank you so much to Pear for sponsoring today's video. Number 3, it will take you longer than you ever thought possible. That's right, I definitely always am just spectacular at timing out my garments. Just know that no matter how well you plan, how much you do for your early on garments, it's going to take you at least 2 times longer than you think. Don't let it discourage you. Number 4, vintage patterns are tougher than you think. When you look at a vintage pattern, you might be concerned that it's not actually going to be able to withstand you using it again. I've got really cool news. Vintage pattern tissue is thicker and more durable than modern pattern tissue. Modern pattern tissue tears at the literal smallest thing. You cut it wrong, it's tearing. Vintage patterns are actually thicker and made with a better type of pulp that lasts longer. This is why I encourage folks to always use vintage patterns, because they actually have a thicker and better makeup to be used over and over and over and over again, as opposed to our current very consumeristic society where you buy a pattern, you use it once, and some folks just get rid of it after that. Which, if it doesn't work for you, is fine so long as you're passing it on to someone else. Please don't ever just throw them in the trash. Number 5, when you're cutting out, do yourself a favor. If there is a straight of grain piece that needs a straight line, use the selvage. Because then, when you go to make your garment, as long as you don't trim away that selvage section, guess what, friends? Your seam is already finished! Hot diggity! I use this trick more often than I would like to actually admit. So, be like me, use your selvage. Number 6, batching your actions. Are you in the middle of a big giant project and you're not really sure if you should actually go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between the sewing machine and the ironing board or the cutting table? Got great news, friends. No, you shouldn't. You should do as much cutting out as possible at the beginning, and then go through and mark everything all at once. And then go through and start doing some of the beginning stitches. So your darts, a shoulder seam, whichever project you're working on. And then when you have enough done, before you need to start combining big pieces, then take all of that stitching over to the ironing board to press what needs to be pressed before returning back to the sewing machine to do many more sewing steps before coming back. This will save you time and effort in your journey back and forth throughout your day. And yes, I do want to credit my friend Serena for this tip, because without her, I would have been one of those people that was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Number 7, finish your seams. I don't care how you finish it, whether you go from French seam to cut with pinking shears, it doesn't matter. But make sure that you're giving your seams some kind of finish so that your wonderful garment or item that you have made does not unravel on you at some point down the road because you opted to skip that step. Number 8, use the tools you have at hand. Do you not have a rotary cutter? No worries, you've got a pair of scissors, right? Even if, let's be real, they're actually designed to be paper scissors and you're just really early on in your sewing journey and you don't want to go invest in very expensive scissors, that's okay. Yes, it will make your journey easier even if you just go and get the lowest grade of fabric scissor. But if you don't have it right now because you're not sure you really want to do this, don't worry about it. It is going to be a little harder. I will warn you that, but it's not impossible. So use the tools that you have at hand. You do not need to go out and buy the biggest, fanciest things, especially when you're just getting started and you're not even sure how to, or if you can, complete your first project. Number 9, make sure that you have a vintage sewing book or a digital copy of a vintage sewing book at hand when using a vintage pattern. Because, let's be real here, a lot of the vintage patterns have very sparse instructions, especially once you get back into the 30s, 20s, teens, etc. Those instructions almost non-existent. So having a book like this, even from a decade that isn't exactly when yours is from, but it's pretty close, this material will help you when the instructions eventually say, in the usual style. So having a book like this, or any type of reference from near the period that you want to sew, is going to be immensely help you and will help you finish your garments in ways that would have been appropriate for the time and tend to last a little longer. And number 10, you are going to want to quit. It will happen. No matter what project you're doing, no matter how easy or hard you have picked for yourself, there will be times you want to throw that thing in the trash can, toss it across the room, you will want to quit. But here's my challenge to you. What if you could finish it? What if it might need 24, 48 hours to sit, but don't let it sit too long. What if you figured it out? How proud are you going to be of yourself then? And let's be real, when you get to go around flouncing around and be like, I made this, that serotonin is unbeatable. So don't be afraid to let it rest for a little bit when you want to give up, but always come back to it because you are worth the finished product. And I do hope you found these tips helpful today. If you do want to join me and acquire yourself a new pair of glasses, make sure that you are clicking the link down below in the description so that you can save 15% off of your first pair using my code Stephanie Canada 15. And I hope that you are sewing in chaos. But I hope you finish the project. Bye. Okay, goodbye. Bubbies, you gotta pick. Okay, come here. No. There. Okay, you can't hit my microphone though. Sir.